Well, if you guys live in Arizona or you've ever been to Arizona, you may notice that our fishing culture is full of ponds. But today I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about fishing ponds here in Arizona. I'm going to be showing you the common methods, and we're going to be going over how to catch every single species that lives in these ponds. And today we're going to be starting at a common favorite for most people, the community ponds. Freaking ducks. You guys will get used to that. Well, whether you live here in Arizona, you're visiting Arizona, or you simply live here and you want to learn more information, this video is for you. Let's start by going over the first thing, which is there are two types of ponds here in Arizona. There are community ponds, which is what I'm at today. These ponds are actually stocked by the Department of Fish and Game consistently on a schedule throughout the year. They are stocked with a round of catfish starting from April, usually goes until the end of May or June, I can't remember. And then trout are stocked at the end of December all the way until the beginning of March or so. In between there are various panfish and bass fingerlings stocked. So I think this just got stocked pretty recently with a bunch of bluegill. I'm kind of seeing them on the sides right here. Luckily for you, Arizona Department of Fish and Game has all these ponds on their website. So all you have to do is look up stocking schedule, Arizona stocking schedule. It'll pop up on Google. You click that. Actually, I will save you that. I'm going to put it right down at the description so all you guys can figure it out by yourselves. Anyways, you can literally see all the ponds. They are all listed there for you. Click on the stocking schedule. It will show you the week that the pond is going to be stocked. From experience, they're usually stocked by that weekend. So if you went on like a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday, you're probably going to catch them. This is definitely one I would recommend for beginners, or if you just want to get some fishing in, you live close to one, you want to come by, give it a try. This is the place to be. So today I have come. There has been no catfish stock in a long time. And it is getting a little warm for the trout that were stocked in here about a month or so ago. So I have no idea what's going to happen. But we're going to sink a simple rig that'll get you a bite in basically any pond there is here. The most effective method in every pond here in Arizona. It will give you a lay of the land. It will tell you what lives there. And then you can dial from there. And it is simply a split shot and a tiny hook. This happens to be an Aberdeen hook. Doesn't need to be an Aberdeen hook. That's just what I had on hand. But simply a small hook and a split shot is all you need sometimes. We're going to use this. We're going to go ahead and sink a worm. Let's talk about baits for these ponds, how to be effective. So the catfish typically are not as picky as you might think. They're stocked catfish. They're raised on pellets. They're not raised in the wild. They're not used to eating, fresh big meals of live fish. So that being said, they eat kind of just about everything. The most effective bait I've seen for them is definitely worms, shrimp, chicken liver, hot dogs, punch bait. You guys know I like to use punch bait sometimes. And if you can catch yourself some of these bluegill, cut them up into pieces, that is excellent bait as well. So you can't go wrong using that stuff for the catfish in here. As for the trout, they can be a little more finicky, but they will typically eat just your power bait, your worms, small spinners, small spoons, mini jigs is a big thing out here. But yeah, you don't need to get too complicated. So those fish, trout and catfish, are stocked for put and take. Now when they do the rounds of the bluegill and the bass, it's usually pretty sporadic. They usually do one before the catfish and before the trout, just so there's some, they call it forage food in here for these fish to eat. All right, all we did here is get a split shot, get a worm, and just threaded it right on the hook. So if you guys are trying to fish here and you have no idea what's going on, just make yourself a visit to the Arizona Department of Fish and Game website and find out what's been stocked most recently. If it's a day like today where nothing has been stocked recently, then you can simply sink a worm. That is what I like to do for everything. It's going to tell us exactly what's down there. So we just hit bottom. Let's see if we get bit immediately. Oh, there's a little tiny bluegill right there. We don't. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in a rod holder. And while we wait for that worm rod, let's talk about a few other species that you can find in these ponds, mostly by chance. To my knowledge, Arizona Department of Fish and Game does not stock these fish. They're either put in here by people or they're put in here by some other source. I guess people have to be the only ones to put them in here, right? Contain carp, which are a ton of fun to catch for the most part. Tilapia, those can be a lot of fun too. They get really big. And also the occasional goldfish. Sometimes people put their pets in these places, and it can be a pleasant surprise when you pull one up. They don't really fight much, but it's kind of cool eye candy, if you know what I mean. And last but not least, the elusive flathead can also be found in some of these ponds. It's usually someone caught it at a big lake or a river and they let it go in here, which is not legal, but it can be, like I said before, a pleasant surprise when you do get into one. When we're talking about setup here, you really don't need to get too fancy. These are stocked fish. They're not going to run you around a bridge. They're not going to run you around a piling. They're not going to spool you. So that being said, the heaviest I would ever go on a rod in one of these ponds is a medium heavy. That is it. You literally need nothing else. And that's even for like the biggest live baits you're going to throw in here. I personally prefer like a medium light. That is like my favorite balance of rod. You still get a good fight out of the fish. You definitely have to play them out a little bit longer. So I'll leave my top 3 recommendations for rods down below for you guys. And hopefully that helps you out. You don't need anything big either. I'd go 6 to 7 feet long. These ponds are really small. You don't need to cast far at all. Actually, seeing there's bluegill right here. Maybe we cast it too far. So that being said, I think I'm gonna grab a bobber. And we're gonna try and catch one of these gill because they're like really close to shore here. Oh, and if you guys have found this helpful so far, I would appreciate you hitting the subscribe button down below. I fish all over Arizona. I'm going to be helping you guys along your way of fishing here in Arizona. It is unlike any other state. If you moved here from somewhere else and you think you had it figured out and you don't feel bad, because I was the exact same way. There's just certain things you need to do to ensure you have success. And I think putting on a bobber here is one of them. Let's see if I was right on this. If I catch a fish right here, you have to subscribe. Oh, we had one. We had one. If I get one right here, you guys have to subscribe for me. Let's see if we were right or not. Oh, you're already getting bit. Oh, my wheel's locking up. Already getting bit. Bingo. And I know he's not impressive, but you got to take what you can get out here. That is for sure. That is a little tiny bluegill. Forage food that I was mentioning for these catfish. So we could cut this guy up and use him for bait. Actually, might do that. Right, well, since we're doing this, I guess I'll talk you guys through it. This is a great way if in your pond you're running into a lot of bluegill. These bluegill will peck off your bait, your hot dogs, your chicken liver, your shrimp, basically everything they can. They cannot, however, peck off their own kind. So I love using these when the bluegill are thick and you're having troubles, you know, hooking fish because they just keep pecking your bait off. Fresh cut bluegill can definitely eliminate that. I was saying before, you don't need a huge piece for these channel cats. Most of the time, they range from the 2 to 4 pound range. There are some bigger ones, you know, up to the 5, 6, 7, 8 pound. Sometimes 10, but for the most part, they're going to be pretty small. They don't have giant mouths, so you don't need anything crazy in terms of bait size for them. This hook will work, but it's not ideal, if that makes sense to you guys. So we're just going to go ahead and hook this once here. Keep that hook point exposed, and hopefully that's going to get us done. Let's talk about the rig. All right, let's talk about 2 main rigs here I like to use in these ponds. So first off, you got your standard Carolina rig. This usually consists of a sliding weight, a bead to protect your knot, a swivel, and then a leader down to your hook. Now obviously this is a hair rig leader. This is something pre-tied, which you can do as well. And then this is going to be typically for your catfish and your carp. You'll just vary that hook size depending on what you're fishing for. Although if you want your hookup ratio to be better, I suggest a smaller hook just because that's going to get more fish. The next one is basically an everything rig. So I like a tiny split shot down to a usually smaller hook. So as you guys can see, that hook's pretty small. This is typically going to be used just for a small piece of bread or a small worm. And you can sink this like this, or you can do what we did and add a bobber. They're going to be effective in different times, but it's definitely important to try both. There's actually tilapia right there on the top of the water. I'm not a fan of tilapia. They just get old real quick. We're gonna go ahead and cast it out there. As for where to cast, it varies day by day. You know, sometimes these catfish are in the middle of the pond. Sometimes they're cruising the bank. Sometimes you get them on bobbers. It's just random, completely random. So that being said, we're just gonna leave it there in a rod holder, and we'll see if we get a bite. If you're using a medium heavy rod, go with 14 to 15 pound test. Using a medium rod, go with 12. Medium light, go with 10. Light, go with 8. And ultralight, go with 6 to 4. If you're comfortable going lighter, then definitely do it. It's gonna set you apart. People use giant weights and like 65 pound braid and giant hooks out here, and you just don't need it. So if you want to give yourself an advantage and fish a little more stealthily, I highly recommend doing that. They can be tricky sometimes. There we go. A little feisty one. And you can basically do that all day long if you wanted to. Obviously we're not going to, but our goal is maybe a little catfish. We'll see. All right, before my camera dies, I'm gonna go ahead and put on a bobber, and we're gonna float a piece of cut bait. I know it sounds weird, but it is so effective here and so underused. I don't see anybody use bobbers, especially with cut bait. So I'm gonna go ahead and put another piece of bait on this. We're gonna float it around. It really helps you cover water down there. And we'll see if we can get one on the bobber rod. That would be preferred, honestly. Just like that, hook point exposed. And we'll float this thing around. I like that area. Well, I let him take it forever. Literally swimming toward him. Sometimes you just gotta give him the extra time. Our GoPro overheated again. I apologize. There we go. That's what we get for switching up to the bobber. Bingo, right in the corner of the mouth. This was on the cut bluegill. Just get out here and do it, guys. Get out here. Go to AZDFG, find a pond, show up, and do some fishing. There we go. Not terrible. Could be worse. Okay, this is on the lower end of average, what they put in here. Perfect. Well, hopefully now you guys kind of know what you're doing at some of these community ponds. They can be a lot of fun. That being said, it is now time to jump to our second type of pond, an HOA pond. I'm gonna tell you guys all about those and how to catch fish and how to gain access sometimes, because that can be a little tricky. But first, let's get packed up. Hopefully my GoPro is good to go by the time I get back there. No promises. We'll see you guys at the next location. Well, we've arrived at our next location, which is going to be our second type of pond. This is an HOA pond, but there are some differences between the ones that you absolutely cannot fish and some of the ones where there's kind of a fine line, but not really. All right, well, as you can see, different type of pond, very quiet, very secluded. So let's get in to some HOA ponds here. So HOA ponds are probably the most effective way of catching fish here in the ponds, period. They are privately stocked. They are not stocked through the Arizona Department of Fish and Game. They are stocked by the Homeowners Association, so they're oftentimes bigger and cooler fish in these areas. Only downside is, unless you know somebody in the community or you request a fishing pass or a fishing permit, you cannot fish here otherwise. That is the tough part. So a lot of these places you'll see a lot of no fishing signs, only fishing for residents, etc., etc. However, there are some communities that don't mind as much as others. There are some that you literally show up and they'll ask you for your ID right away. And there's some that just don't even have any security looking around or anything like that. So that being said, be smart, be responsible. I do not condone trespassing or fishing where you shouldn't be. Stay out of legal trouble. You heard me mention cooler fish. So yeah, a lot of these ponds are gonna hold your koi, which are super cool fish. Some of your cooler carp, like your mere carp, common carp. Some of them even have like butterfly carp. I think there's some in here actually. Bigger catfish, bigger panfish. And 99.9% of these ponds are gonna be catch and release only, which I totally agree with. I think you guys should too. But without further ado, let's set up some rods and see how this pond is gonna produce for us. HOA ponds, yeah, you guys probably see them all the time. They're literally scattered throughout as you're driving through town. Well, my target species here at this pond is actually gonna be carp. So carp are probably the most common fish here in Arizona, whether you're fishing canals, ponds, or lakes. They're literally everywhere. It's a perfect environment for them. There's small ones from about half a pound and down, and there's big ones from 10, 20, 30. I think the biggest one here is in the 40s. I think 42 pounds is the biggest. So carp are a ton of fun. They're very easy to catch. Doesn't require a crazy setup. We're going to utilize that Carolina rig that I talked about earlier, and we're just going to go with some store-bought bread. I know you guys heard me talking about the store-bought baits. Best baits for here for carp by far, corn and bread. That's it. Don't complicate it. Corn and bread. That's absolutely it. And chumming here in Arizona is extremely effective, especially in these ponds, even the community ponds that we fished earlier. It is extremely effective. So I don't have any on me today, but I'll throw up right here a quick little recipe for chum. And I highly recommend using that. I have a ton of videos on it. If you guys want to check it out, I'll leave those linked below as well. But basically, you just make a compile of, you can basically use whatever you want. I really like the Jello breadcrumb corn recipe. You kind of mix that all together and you just have a bunch of grains that you throw into the water. And then over time, as those fish are swimming around, they find that bait and it keeps them in the area longer. So this could help you catch more fish and keeps it a little more consistent. Sometimes I get a little bougie, you know. And I'm gonna cast this straight across there. And then we're gonna put one a little closer as well. And we'll just see what happens, man. After that, we may try for some bass, because I know you guys are probably chomping at the bit to learn about the bass, but for now, we're just gonna do this. Little Aberdeen hook. This hook will bend out on us, so we need to be careful about using chintzy hooks on these big fish, but could be crazy. Should we just YOLO it over here? I think we should. Go right over there. Leave this loose. Rod holder. Perfect. We're fishing. Oh, did we just get pecked? Oh. This can happen quickly. This can happen quickly. So this is what I like about these HOA ponds. They're oftentimes going to hold fish that will bite a lot quicker than in these community ponds. Main reason is there's more fish. They're not taken out. They're released consistently and they're able to just grow nice and big. And as you can see, that didn't take too long. We got a fish on the bread immediately. Insane. This is definitely my favorite type of fishing, but like I said, you got to get that permission. Some communities take it very seriously, some don't, but it's really easy to do. I mean, ask around, you'll find someone that lives there, get them to get you a day pass for the day or have them accompany you, and that's it. You can go and do it. So what do we got on here is the question. Feels very nice. He looks very nice. Oh, we got a mirror carp. I mean, that didn't take but 2 minutes, man. 2 minutes. Whew. All right, come on. Let's get you in the net here. 10 out of 10 would recommend a net for these fish because they can be a pain to land with your hand only, basically. Got it. There we go. That easy, man. Wow. And that's an example of a cooler one. That's a nice mirror carp right there. They're pretty common here in Arizona, believe it or not, in the ponds and some in the canals as well. I even caught one in the Salt River one time. We're not going to weigh him or anything, but we will get him out of here nice and quick. And there he goes. So I think now we're going to hop to a different pond, hopefully get a bass. Bass would be nice because I don't think they're in this section quite, but let's get on the move. I'll show you how you can potentially catch a bass at one of these ponds. They're pretty pressured, but we may be able to pull it off. Let's get on the move. All right, we've arrived at our next location. Now, bass fishing in these types of places, it's kind of a run and gun type deal, meaning we're only gonna be rocking the GoPro. You wanna cover as much water as possible. So a lot of these have like little cut-ins. We're just gonna be fishing the cut-ins and then moving on. So I just stopped here at this first one. Let's grab the spinnerbait and see what we can find. Helps you cover water. You can move it around pretty easily. And oh, the water's super shallow. I don't know how this is gonna go. This might be pretty bad, actually. You might want to move spots. Oh, I see a fish, actually. Did we just get bit? I think I might have just saw a fish. But this bait allows you to just cover water, just like this. I definitely might have gotten bit out there, actually. We could just cast it in these little nooks and crannies and hopefully run into something. I mean, just get it up in all these little cuts, exactly where you'd think there's fish. Just never know. All right, while filming this video, I totally forgot to mention bass baits. So I keep it really simple with 3 artificials. 1, a wacky rig Senko. 2, a drop-shotted trick worm of any kind. 3, a spinnerbait. That is all you need. Don't complicate it further unless you're finding pressured fish. If you do find pressured fish, live bait is the #1 way to get them to bite. I know not all bass fishermen like doing this, but you can oftentimes cast net live shad and live bluegill in these ponds. When doing so, the best method I found to use is a bobber. Just put that live bait below a bobber. They will absolutely smash it. Well, drop shot's all we got left, so hopefully this is it. Come on, baby. I promise you can get them at the right times, guys. I promise. Come on, baby. Just give me one. Just give me one. I'll get out of here, I promise. There's a bite. There we go. There we go. Of course I get like the smallest one. Oh, well, I know it took us a while, but these little urban bass, man, they can be a ton of fun when you do get them to bite. Well, that's the name of the game. Move around until you find one that's active. They can be pretty pressured, but if you determine yourself and you power through, you may be able to get one. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. If you are struggling to catch fish here in Arizona or you simply want to know more knowledge, shoot me an email down below and I'll add you to a list where I'm going to give out some fishing reports and just tips and tactics along the year to help you guys catch more fish. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.